City sheriffs sifted through over $1 million worth of marijuana in all different forms as they busted the unlicensed cannabis shop Tuesday.
So they're already packaged for distributing.
But what's most significant here, the sheriff says, is the printing press, making colorful and misleading cartoon packages.
Some of these labels are indicating, one, that it's from California, which it's not, and two, it's also the kids' packaging, which is what endangers our communities right now.
Good morning and good afternoon. It is Saturday, July 13th, 2024. We hope you had a great 7/10 holiday and Hash Dependence Day. So happy Hash Dependence weekend, everyone. And this is the weekly blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and please remember to smash that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as well as drop us a comment below of what you think about this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Let's go by getting right into it with story number 1 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. They say, gotta love seeing a 75-year-old living his best life. And this is out of Fayette County out in Iowa. Over 300 marijuana plants and 58 firearms were seized from a home in Fayette County on Monday. And a 75-year-old man has been charged with multiple offenses. The Fayette County Sheriff's Office executed a search warrant on the 100 block of West Elm Street in Rindalia. During a search of the residence, a marijuana grow operation was discovered, including drying racks, plant hangers, grow lights, and more. Loaded assault rifles, shotguns, and pistols were also seized. 75-year-old Clyde Taylor Pickett was charged with possession with intent to deliver of a controlled substance, failure to affix drug tax stamp, and possession of a controlled substance. Pickett is being held at the Fayette County Jail on a $5,000 cash surety bond. Oh, man, someone rescue this man. $5,000. Shout out to this old man right here. This is crazy. They're bothering this old guy, 75 years old, and just... Man, what a shame. This is not the business at all. But let's go into and see what you guys have to say all about this, because I love these comments on this. But on another note too, if I do happen to murder your Instagram name, I do apologize in advance. It is not intentional. Now let's see what you all have to say about this. 562_born says, at 75 years old, I wouldn't care about going to prison. Yeah, you would if you had to sleep on those beds and eat that food that they feed you. S_Paralici says, 5K only? Let's bail out Grandpa. I'm with you on that. But I do find it interesting you didn't say what you got on that 5K, but nonetheless. Cash_money-AB says, best bail I've seen in America. I could agree with that. I'm stony right now, says 75 years old with all that work. Guy has seen some shit. You are right about that. I know I saw an old man one time. I was on this crazy property and our car had broken down, and he came out with a double-barrel shotgun and said, you better get your car off my property or I'm going to split your wig. I can imagine this old gentleman is probably in a similar mindset. Gray Graham says, bro was going up for all those years. He lived it, El Chapo style. Northbound Headlight says, teeks to high heaven of a rat. That's right, it does. Smells like a rat going on. I'm with you right now. L11ot or Elliot says he's probably a vet with chronic pain and a hobby collecting firearms. I would imagine so, because there were no gun charges, so they were probably all his, and he was legally allowed to have all those. Soyo Polo says, shit, 5K bond, take my ass inside instead of Grandpa. Well, I'm glad that you are willing to go in replace for him, and maybe you should reach out to the county sheriff's office and let them know that. The ZA print says, Grandpa got motion 100. And Trouble Shredder says, no gun charges, though. That's right, because they were probably his. And 719er_BAM says, where they giving out drug tax stamps at? Asking for a friend. I found that interesting, too. They were talking about the drug tax stamps in Iowa. I mean, they haven't issued those since, I think it was the 40s, but nonetheless. Moving right along into story number 2 in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, to which we are going to play this brief video for you first.
A major bust of an illegal cannabis shop and distributor in Brooklyn. CBS 2's Ali Bauman shows us why tonight's bust could have a ripple effect across the entire city.
Just bags and bags of flour.
At least 50 pounds of marijuana flower stashed behind a blacked-out storefront in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn. We were there as the New York City sheriff sifted through over $1 million worth of marijuana in all different forms as they busted the unlicensed cannabis shop Tuesday.
So they're already packaged for distributing.
But what's most significant here, the sheriff says, is the printing press, making colorful and misleading cartoon packages.
Some of these labels are indicating, one, that it's from California, which it's not, and two, it's also the kids' packaging, which is what endangers our communities right now.
Sheriff Anthony Miranda says this printer is a clear indication that this location distributes unregistered and untaxed pot to unlicensed shops around the city.
Have you ever seen a printing press like this at one of these shops?
This is the first printing press that we've recovered.
Also recovered chemicals used to flavor marijuana.
The illicit market, when they're mixing the chemicals into the flower product, people are no longer smoking cannabis. They are smoking the chemicals that are being mixed into.
They have this printing press that makes it look like it's from a legal dispensary in California, but actually it's not, and they're putting chemicals that we don't even know what's on it there.
That's correct. That's the danger that we have. This is clearly false labeling, right? Everything that we target in our inspections and the reasons why we're out here doing this, this store is kind of identified as that location, an ideal location that needed to be shut down.
Miranda says the sheriff's office was tipped off to this location by complaints from neighbors.
We hear your complaints. We are responding to your complaints, and please make sure you keep us informed.
From here, this product will be stored for evidence, the business will be fined, and at least 2 of the employees are already facing felony counterfeit charges. From Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News.
The Blacklist says as the crackdown on New York City's illegal cannabis shops continue, investigators say they found one store making its own colorful, misleading cartoon packages in Brooklyn. The New York City Sheriff's Office seized at least 50 pounds of marijuana from behind the blackened-out storefront Tuesday in Shepherd's Bay. CBS New York Ollie Blumen was there as the sheriff's office sifted through more than $1 million worth of marijuana in all different forms at the unlicensed shop. Investigators said the produced products had already been packaged for distribution using a printing press that was found inside the store. In a quote, some of these labels are indicating it's from California, which it's not, and it's kids packaging, which is endangering our community right now, said New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda. Miranda said the printer is a clear indication the location distributes unregistered and untaxed pot to unlicensed shops around the city. In a quote, he says, this is the first printing press we've recovered, and it'll be part of the ongoing investigation, he said. Investigators also recovered chemicals used to flavor the marijuana. Okay, I guess you guys are talking about those sprayed packs. In an additional quote, he says, the illegal marijuana market, when they're mixing chemicals into the flower product, people are no longer smoking cannabis. They're smoking the chemicals being mixed in, said Miranda. He said it's clearly false labeling, and the sheriff's office was tipped off to the location by complaints from neighbors. AKA, that means someone was snitching. These seized products were stored as evidence, and the store will be fined, and at least 2 of the employees faced felony counterfeit charges, as according to CBS News in New York. Well, oh man, this is just one one small dent, one small grain of sand in the ocean of what is New York's illicit cannabis market. This is just a bump in the cracks. I find it really humorous, the fact that he's all excited about this printing press. I mean, in all honesty, I would be excited if I was able to buy this printing press at auction. I would be stoked because this is a really good printing press for products and high-end labels and whatnot. I'm willing to bet that a lot of that product probably is California product, just hasn't been packaged yet, and they just package it there or whatnot. But I didn't see a lot of mention of scales found, just packaged goods. So maybe they do that somewhere else. But who knows? Who knows? But I can tell you what, I know you guys had a lot of comments about this, and let's go into those. Because Beastie Blunts NYC says, funny part is that people with no common sense still gonna smoke that shit, LOL. NYC loves the bootleg. They also must like watered down Henny. It's like taking this generation to McDonald's and buying them a Happy Meal because they want the weed in a box with a toy. You couldn't have said it better, or I couldn't have said it better myself, Beastie Blunts. That is so true. H1 or high dot grade says, we already knew this is just confirmation for the non-believers of the spray game. 100. Legal cannabis vendor _ FPV says, meanwhile, legal cannabis dispensaries are closing in California. I wonder which one you're referencing. I know it is tough for retailers in California, but I wonder which ones you're actually referring to. Free Bird Market says, New York got 99 problems and weed ain't one. Dan _ 0707 says, pay your taxes, pay for the permit, and they pretty much stay away for the most part. Well, apparently not today for this group, and we have no clue if they were paying their taxes or what, but who knows. Collective Branding 420 Print says, damn, not the printer. I feel you, bro. They took that printer. Green Thumb Going Dumb 15 says, that's why you just tap in with the real discreet cultivators. I wonder what real discreet cultivators he's talking about, because pretty much every single cultivator has an Instagram or a Twitter or anything else, so it's not that discreet. But nonetheless, Terpene _ Creative says, we can fix your played out cartoon designs. I guess you guys must be advertising spray too. I Drew is here says, this store just gave New York City so much positive press and more enforcement fuel. You are so correct on that. They love to highlight themselves doing stuff like this. Easy Making It says, 50 pounds out the streets. This gonna send prices up like crazy. So good. So good. Mikey _ Got It says, hashtag make weed great again. And Dabs with Earl says, NY has a trash weed culture. Easy there. _ Modern Mystic says, they had a good run. Hopefully they stacked cash, so it was worth it. Looks like they were stashing a lot of goods in there, but who knows. Spores Ill Strudog says, who thinks those two were charges are going to roll? I mean, there's not really a lot to roll on, I think. I don't think they're going to face that much time for anything like that. They'll probably get no time. I mean, they've got people that have done all kinds of crazy crimes, violent crimes in New York that aren't charged with any time, so who knows? But Youth the Force 707 says, can't wait for a cop to bust out like Kanye did on air for Hurricane Katrina about weed. Yeah, I remember that. He was like, yeah, talking about the President Bush and all kinds of other stuff. Oh man, that was good. That was good. Good reference. And Gib Grow It Big says, I like how the reporters emphasize untaxed pot. Fuck taxes. You are so right. You are so right. Mr. Gonzalez Q50 bone stock. Do you think you could have picked a longer name? Says, block work with the liquid terps to spice it up. Oh man. Extras. Maybe that is what it is a whole bunch of spicing it up. And today's PSA is brought to you today by Hyatt 9 News and The Blacklist XYZ, to which The Blacklist XYZ put out a series of polls. Blacklist XYZ does have over 1 million followers, so I do feel as though these are as good as any professional polling company would come up with, or better seeing as the connection to the community overall. But nonetheless, here are the questions along with the results. Question number 1. If they eliminated taxes, would you buy legal weed? 60% of you all say yes, and 40% of you all say no. I think that's a really good, interesting indicator. Next one, do you buy your cannabis? Who do you buy your cannabis from? A licensed shop, 23% of you said that. 59% say my plug. And 17% says I quit smoking cannabis because y'all are just driving me crazy with 17% coming in. Interesting. 59% of you buying from the plug. That's a lot. That's a lot. They also say, do you identify as a consumer non-grower? 42% of you identify as that. A cultivator of 6 plants or less with 15%. And a cultivator with 7 plants or more, 28%. Interesting statistic right there, because right there, that is 43% right there of cultivators. Very interesting. Shout out to the home growers. And a grower who doesn't consume, 15%. Interesting. Wow, that number is even bigger. Wow, that's 50% of you guys. Over 50%, 53%. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. The Blacklist XYZ also asks, do you have access to legal cannabis? Meaning, are there legal dispensaries in your zip code? 72% of you said yes, and 28% of you said no. And the last poll of the year, where do you shop? 17% of you say at a legal store, and 83% of you say my plug. Well, this has all been super, super interesting and very fascinating, especially with California wanting to do a new rollout of marketing to these types of consumers that want to buy weed from the plug and want to encourage people to go into legal stores. But nonetheless, we are going to roll right along into our third story of the day in this week's Blunt Wrap-Up of the Blacklist XYZ. Out in Carpinteria, California, a Ventura man was arrested in Carpinteria on suspicion of stealing from a marijuana farm there, the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office reported on Wednesday night. The incident was reported around 9 a.m. and Tuesday after someone allegedly took items from a marijuana farm they had accessed by cutting a hole in a fence of a neighboring orchard, authorities said. The marijuana farm in an unincorporated area is a legal operation pursuant to new state laws, sheriff's officials said. And upon investigating, deputies said they contacted 2 people Tuesday afternoon at a Carpinteria Motel 6. Nothing ever good happens from Motel 6, you guys, just so you know. The pair were found with drug paraphernalia and methamphetamine and were arrested, authorities reported. A subsequent search turned up more than 50 pounds of marijuana and marijuana plants. Where could they have been hiding those at? Burglary tools and other items stolen from the marijuana farm, according to these authorities. The stolen items were returned to the farm's owner, and Patrick Carty, 48, of Ventura, and a San Diego woman who was 30 years old were booked into Santa Barbara County Jail on suspicion of burglary and conspiracy, both possible felony charges, authorities said. They also could face additional misdemeanor charges, bail for which was set at $20,000, authorities say. And the case against the San Diego woman was later dismissed, court records currently show. Man, oh man, oh man. This guy getting high at Motel 6, man, I'll tell you what. I had cops tell me one time at a Motel 6, they're like, we know every single one of these people here are high, and we're just looking for anybody that we can bust up out of here because it's an easy bust. So be careful when you're at places like Motel 6s because pretty much everyone there is on drugs. And man, this guy smoking meth at a Motel 6. on the 10 and 2. It's just all bad. Smoking meth is just bad for you. It's just bad, okay? All right. And Shelton says, this article was from December of 2017. However, it says that it was updated July 9th, 2024, but they don't say what was updated. I'm willing to bet that the robberies happened back in 2017 and there was continued to get robberies, and maybe they just found this guy all of a sudden and busted him. Finally caught him all the way just recently, but who knows? Underscore Troy Out says, doing meth is celebrated in California. Too many people out here don't see it as lowly behavior. I agree with you on that. That is very true. Far too many tweakers just out running the streets, making it seem normal as a part of normal life. Little underscore Hill underscore cultivators say, free meth pipe pat, modern day Robin Hood. That's crazy. Millis James says, LOL, so the San Diego woman snitched. Very, very possible. And Raid Stafarian 805 says, that's a burnt out motel. You are so right. Ender underscore Main says, all that gas and he hit the pipe. I know, right? Just, I mean, even if it's outdoor greenhouse weed, like you're in the Motel 6, bro. Like, come on. And Boof underscore Fairy says, that's methed up. So good. I couldn't write this better myself, you guys. Rolling right into our fourth story of the day in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Alan Welsh wasn't just a cop. He was a cop that busted people for marijuana, you guys. Now he grows marijuana for a living. Does any of this sound familiar, you guys? Well, he served 28 years with the South Dakota Highway Patrol. For many of them, he was one of the top leaders for the patrol in the Sioux Falls region of South Dakota. Back in 2012, for example, he was quoted in a story about a saturation patrol that led to the seizure of 295 pounds of marijuana. Now he's a partner in a Dakota Herb, a company with grow operations that produce that much pot on a regular basis. There are times Welsh is shocked himself, like during a recent tour of a Dakota Herb facility in T, when he walked into a room filled with clear plastic garbage bags of dried marijuana awaiting their turn to be processed into edibles and vapes. In a quote, "When I was in law enforcement, I'd have gone crazy seeing this," Welsh said. So how did Welsh go from a vowed enemy of the devil's lettuce to a purveyor of pot for medical patients, you ask? In a quote, he says, "I did my own research. I looked into it, and I kind of changed my mind," he said. Kind of. Laughy face. Over the past year, Welsh has grown frustrated with the state regulations and his former law enforcement colleagues' response to the quasi-legal market for marijuana alternatives, which can cut into demand for medical marijuana. Wonder why? Well, with the 2018 Farm Bill, Congress legalized hemp and defined it as anything containing less than 0.3 delta-9 THC, better known as tetrahydrocannabinol, by dry weight. Delta-9 THC produces a high from consuming marijuana, and this is cutting into Welsh's medical cannabis company's profits. Well. It's funny how opinions change when your bottom line is evolved, isn't it, the Blacklist says? And to which I totally agree. And experts from MitchellRepublic.com included in this caption, you guys. So now we have this South Dakota cop having a medical cannabis company complaining about the hemp-derived market cutting into his profits. I am not surprised at all by this. I mean, I do find it funny that this gentleman is in this business in the first place. But, hey, you know what? People change. Life goes on. Who knows, man? Oh, man. But I can tell you what, who did have a fascinating comment about this is Mr. Weed for the People himself, CEO of Catalyst, Mr. Catalyst _CEO, Elliot Lewis says, my guess is he uses burnt GH product as his supply. Why not? They all roll with impunity. Very, very true. They all roll with impunity. Cameras.and.cannabis says, hot take. If you worked as a police officer locking people up for cannabis, you shouldn't be able to obtain a license to produce or sell it. I think that's an interesting take that the cannabis industry takes too, because also too the cannabis industry claims to be inclusive of everyone and yada yada yada. So I do find that super interesting that a lot of people do have this this take on it, but to each their own opinion. And B_Rando_D says now he's frustrated with the regulations and enforcement's response. Yeah, bud, go on and tell us about how the system is effed. I'm thrilled he had his moment of clarity, but he can eat the fattest eggplant, he says. Pistol Pete 918 says, when I saw the profits, I kind of changed my mind. Ocean.grown562 says, Chad, final boss. Oinky oinky. I will defeat him for the people. That's cute. Flippin' Whip says, they not like us. They not like us. Yes, that's right. And JX Shashman says, just push for hemp regulation like Florida. The most important thing is consumer safety, not profits. If you have better product, you can still compete with hemp. Hell, just grow THCA flower and supply hemp companies. Well, that's interesting advice, and, I think it's all THCA at the end of the day, but I'm going to leave that for a lawyer to dissect. Bio Borbolio says, hypocrisy. And It's Just Goody says, should do a piece on the shitty out-of-state companies that came into South Dakota and are trying to choke out the in-state brands. I never even realized South Dakota had in-state brands, but shout out to them. Squidded Word _Tentacle 710 says he needs to GTFO before gets some justice served to him. Sounds a little threatening, but nonetheless. Mr. T83 says this is why they arrested so many people and burnt up their records, so that when it did become legal, law enforcement or others would be the first ones to get dibs on making a business. Well, a lot of them have capitalized on that. And in all fairness, there have been a lot of law enforcement officers that have been advocating the plant, and groups like organizations like LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition and whatnot. So, you can't just group them all in one, but nonetheless. Silent Grinding Grows says, hope he stubs his toe daily walking in that facility. That's cute. One Stoned Immaculate says, burn it all down, as my co-host Rico Lamitte would say on High 9 News. And Froderick McFrankenstein says, make him take some hot dabs for breakfast, then we talk. That's right, because red means go. Jeff.Kistner.92 says, I did 3 years in prison because of a tyrant piece of crap like this. 3 years with killers for selling weed. I have a problem with it. It's fair enough. It's a fair position to take. Classic_soul_Sunday says, nah, bro, should be instantly disqualified. LOL. Instantly disqualified. And _stonerjev_ says, that's my boss. Wow, I couldn't have written this better. You guys are so good. And rolling on to our fifth and final story of the day in this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, to which the Blacklist says, coming out of Lakewood, Colorado, says a man in Georgia may not be getting his stash of marijuana edibles anytime soon. The Lakewood Police Department intercepted the roughly 7-pound haul after it ended up on an unwitting local resident's doorstep. Officers were called to the home on Tuesday morning after the victim realized their UPS account had been hacked Oh my. In a quote, they said someone had been using it to ship large packages. One package was returned to the victim's old home in Lakewood, and when it was opened, marijuana was found inside. Lakewood police wrote in the social media post, in a quote, they say, "So, to Mr. Scott in Georgia, we have your package here at the PD." I'm assuming that stands for Postal Department because I think they're trolling. But nonetheless, this is an interesting situation. These guys jacked someone's postal account, started shipping packs from it, and then all of a sudden, they figured it out. And one of the packages got returned to sender. The lady calls the cops because there's product in the package, or there's cannabis in the package, and boom, busted. And yes, that is totally legal because it is under the presumption that when a package arrives at your home address, you do have the right to open that because it is presumed that since it was delivered to you, that is for you. So yes, it is easy to open up mail that is not addressed to you and is legal, or you're not going to get arrested for it or anything else like that. To which _Michael Roby says, LOL, I heard you had to hack people's USPS account to put their address on your package. Man. Spliffnut says, so they got about 30 to 40 grams worth of Disty sprayed edibles. That's true, judging by the pictures. Hydra Soul of Digital says all spray packs. So right. High Peaks MI says, that was probably only 200 edibles. I'm sure someone in these comments ordered it. Very, very possible. With over 1 million subscribers, I wouldn't be surprised. Getting High with Cat says, so that's 6 pounds of Mylar and maybe 1 pound of edibles. LMFAO. And Jacob _R _Carter says, LMFAO, that's fucking insane. 7 pounds isn't even that much of edibles. You are right, because food is heavy. And One Solid Forever says, they just put it in the box. I bet no type of packing skills, LOL. 710 Bam 420 says, don't worry, that shit insured. And Beanie _1415 says, spray in Colorado? Apparently so. And Oggs Hardward says, you people talking about Colorado spraying anything need to travel more. Nincompoops. Ender _man says, for once, police did their job and got these disgusting spray packs off the street. To which I'm with you. We salute you for that. Thank you for eradicating the world from more boof. Hollywood It Up says, crime fighting time. And Elzine _studio says, prepackaged LOL got finessed and still lost the pack. That they did. Liddy _band says, so the person who opened the package doesn't get in trouble. It's a felony to open someone else's mail. Yes, Liddy _high or Liddy _bands. I addressed that previously in the video just to give you the 411 on what is real and what isn't. And Black Crow Exotics official says, how is this news, LOL? It's because it is news, and this is interesting, and this has been this week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Thank you all for tuning in to this week's Hash Dependence Weekend episode of the blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. I'm your host, Jason Beck, and make sure to tune in to High at 9 News every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast for America's #1 daily cannabis news show, High at 9 News, as well as to continue to comment on all of the posts the Blacklist XYZ and the Blacklist post throughout the week for your chance to be featured on next week's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone, and don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, as well as drop a comment below with what you think about this weekend's blunt wrap-up of the Blacklist XYZ, brought to you by High at 9 News and Cloud Media Partners. Have an amazing and safe holiday weekend, everyone. Happy Hash Dependence Weekend.